You're looking at the Chiefs. Do you need Melvin Gordon to beat the Chiefs? He hadn't played well against them, and they've been fine without him against their primary rival. So the question, do you break the bank based on the way guys are getting paid who are elite for a guy who passes the eyeball test to me, but doesn't, when you actually look at the production, doesn't pass that test? As Key said, I don't want to mess with someone's money. I hope he gets all the money in the world. But in a league where you have to rob Peter to pay Paul, my answer is no.
I don't agree at all. In reality, this is a dynamic running back. Last year, this man focused on learning how to catch, became a 3-down back. And I understand Austin Eckler, they had a nice little 1-2 punch. But without Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler isn't the same player. Take a look at Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers isn't getting any younger. In fact, he's falling into that Tom Brady, Drew Brees role where he needs the run game. He needs the play action to be there. And the one thing that Gordon brought to his game when he catches the football coming out the backfield, he gets to catch and go. There's one defender in front of him rather than fighting against an 8-man line, an 8-man box. So when I'm looking at Melvin Gordon, what he brings to the table, I'm looking at Le'Veon, I'm looking at these dynamic running backs. You have to pay this guy. And I hear you, Key. You can franchise tag him. You want to be realistic. The L.A. Chargers have a chance to do something special in L.A., so you got to take care of this man.
Well, I think, Ryan, you certainly want to keep your best players because they give you the best chance to win. But if you backed against the corner and you have no other options, this isn't, if you remember, you probably were too young, but the Emmitt Smith situation where the Dallas Cowboys went 0-2 and the team went crazy. They bring Emmitt Smith in, they make a run, they go on a run and win the Super Bowl. That's not what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a guy who at times, much like Max said, is averaging about 3.3 yards a carry. Yes, his numbers were up again last year a little bit. He missed some games. They were 4-0 without him. So when you're looking at that, if I'm a general manager, president of a team, and I'm looking at all these sort of things, can we beat Kansas City? Can we win our division without Melvin Gordon in the lineup? I like an old guy like Phillip Rivers. This team is still about Phillip Rivers regardless.
Key, athlete eyeball test. Question for you. Athlete eyeball test. Football eyeball test. To me, Melvin Gordon passes that like you're like, okay, he can play. Yep. But somehow the production doesn't show up on the field. And Ryan's talking about maybe he's victimized by circumstance or whatever else. But to me, in a league where running backs are cheap, you can find running backs everywhere. What do you say? Does he have elite potential? Does he pass the eyeball test for you?
He passes the eyeball test, and circumstances change in sports in general. You know that, Max. You can be with a certain type of team in a certain system and an offense, and you can look fabulous, and you can go somewhere else and look like trash. The situation is a little bit different. You got to remember, Coach Lynn's coming over here. This is only his second year. So this is now Melvin Gordon's third year with Coach Lynn. This is the year to make a break year for him in terms of production on the field. And I think he'll give you that. But we're talking about his contract. Do you pay him the same type of money that you're probably going to have to pay Ezekiel Elliott?
To me, there's that category.
Every single running back that's a starting running back on a team is in that category, or else they wouldn't be a starting running back. Just because his statistics don't say such, he's the guy that they lean on in the running game.
But what I'm saying is there are tiers of players, right? Like there are levels to this, as Meek Mill said.
He's in the tier.
I'm saying the top tier to me, you talk about Zeke, Gurley, Saquon, who's going into his second year. There are guys like that where you go, oh, this is a little different. Then there's a tier under that. I would say Christian McCaffrey or someone like that. Is he even in that tier?
But, Max, even with that, you're saying a tier underneath. It doesn't matter because the marketplace is the marketplace. And when you say, here's a guy who has now performed at a certain level and the market is there where running backs are making this type of money, you can't argue with him and his agent and say, well, his numbers are lower than his. Okay, so what? Do you value him is all that matters. How do you value him? Do you value him as a major asset on your team, or is he just another back? And if you feel that he's just another running back, then you probably should move on from him and get another guy.
See, but here's the big thing. In that system, you can't replace him. Austin Eckler cannot come in and fill that role. In fact, they're dynamic. They're great together. Great change of pace. But if you want one without the other, I'm taking Melvin Gordon. Phillip Rivers ain't getting no younger. It fits the system. And if you want to talk about Zeke and Dak, Zeke, obviously, he carries that workload. We get it. McCaffrey, right now, Cam Newton ain't throwing past 20 or 30 yards, so he needs the dump-offs in the system. Le'Veon Bell was the safety blanket for Ben Roethlisberger. But Melvin Gordon, while Phillip Rivers still has juice in the tank, while they're competing with the Rams in L.A., you cannot afford to let your running back go.
What would Bill Belichick do, guys?
Bill Belichick would do.
Bill Belichick will use him as far as he can, then he'll move on from him. But that's the New England Patriots system, and that's New England's way. They feel they can get value for other players. They don't have to pay max dollars to certain guys. Every organization is different. Every single organization is different.
What I'm saying is, Key, if he does certain things, like the best thing you could say about him, if Ryan Hollins is correct about this, like he turned himself into a 3-down back, you need him in your system. The best thing you say is you save a roster spot because you now need fewer players to achieve the same kind of threats on the field. A catch or running out of the backfield guy, same guy. But you can approximate that value with 2 cheaper replacements in the NFL pretty easily. Especially when he's not getting it done not really giving you the production.
I think a lot of people underestimate someone's value. Yes, he improved his pass catching ability out of the backfield. But can you detach him from the line of scrimmage like a Kamara in New Orleans, like a Gurley at the Rams, like a McCaffrey in Carolina? Can you detach him from that formation? Can he match up against strong safeties and linebackers and run pass routes outside? I don't believe he can. So that part of his value, he's devalued just slightly because of those things. He is a touchdown scoring machine. I believe he scored 14 touchdowns last year. So inside the red zone, he does a tremendous job. But is that value to you and your team? It's all about what value do you place on a young man.
Key, what are the expectations for the Chargers? Would it be safe to say Super Bowl? They're not trying to just barely make the playoffs. But I'm saying in their locker room,
they're a playoff
front
team.
Office, what are they looking to do? But what are they saying? What are they saying? What are their expectations?
I know this is like cliche, but out of all 32 teams, when they come doing training camp and that coach stands up there, first thing he says is we got a chance to go to the Super Bowl. We got a chance to make this season special. So I'm sure the LA Chargers and Coach Lynn and that staff is saying this to these players that we have an opportunity to win the division, make a deep run into the playoffs, and go to the Super Bowl. Now, is that realistic? Yes, it is. Some things need to fall in place because I believe Kansas City out of the AFC, along with New England and Pittsburgh, probably will be the favorites, and the Chargers sit in that number 4 spot for me.
Well, Keyshawn, you said he scored 14 touchdowns. You're right about that. 14 touchdowns in 12 games. Next season, depending whether he gets a new deal or a trade, he's expected to make $5.6 million. All right. Well, coming up next on First Take, Anthony Davis says he'd put the Lakers roster up against anybody in the league, but who is the leader of the Lakers? You won't want to miss what the guys have to say on this one.